Hey everyone, and welcome to another Planet Coaster 2 video, and welcome to my face, I guess. So, isn't that a very smooth transition? It's actually as smooth as I think Planet Coaster 2 is going. Sorry for that pun, but however, this video is going to be used to talk about the current status of Planet Coaster 2, and I'm speaking specifically about the things we already know and some things we can actually kind of estimate that will happen, and we also have to talk about certain things that are missing. But there are new hints to those of you who have seen my other videos. You know what I'm talking about. But anyways, step by step, let's first of all talk about the current situation of this game. So people have been rather negative in the early days of the announcement because, you know, we haven't had that many information, and granted, the last feature drop wasn't as spicy and as maybe full as we've hoped to, but then again, their social postings gave us a little bit more of an insight to what we can expect. So this coaster in specific that you've seen as a footage next to me somewhere there, I don't know, putting it somewhere in the video, is gonna be the central point of this discussion, because anyways, this is going to be the central point of a discussion because it yet again showed us the newest engine version, I should say, and this is a lot more important than many people may think it is. Put that against some of the footage you've seen in the first deep dive, and put that against all the comments that say this game isn't any better than Planet Zoo's graphic was. Well, it is, and specifically you can see that in some of the lighting details, how dark a specific station is, and all these kind of things seem to be a lot improved over what we've already seen in the first two deep dives. And in fact, I can confirm that to you. I'm allowed to say, on Gamescom, Adam told me that all we've seen so far was recorded in an older version of the game, which was the version that they had on Gamescom, and from now on all the new content is already in a newer version of the game, but it is by any means the last one. So that is going to be very interesting, because the leap forward from the first deep dive to this coaster posted to to the socials is mega relevant, because we can see how much they improve. We also have seen how many coasters have been announced, or basically confirmed, I should say. We've seen how many things have been checklisted, so to say, or checkmarked by now, and I have to say, this is going in a very good direction. So let me just briefly give you an idea of what I was saying. So the first thing is, we all have been asking for switch tracks. They've been confirmed by now. We all have been asking for better pathing. This has been more than confirmed. It's basically a revolution. The integration of the pools is really, really great. But then people were fearing that there are not dedicated runoff areas, and it was also unrealistic going into the pools. Well, that's been fixed, because we now do know there is a certain runoff area. We had people claiming that there was a little bit of a lack of realism in the water FX. The water FX have been fixed from the first version we've seen to now. They look really good. Like in the latest thing, they have actually showed a very good VFX effect with those fountains, you know. The wonderful sequencer that everyone was obsessed with in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 is now back, and we all know how much of a pain it was in Planet Coaster in the first game to do these sequences. It was just all these numbers and digits and blah blah blah, very complicated. Now we have this very cool looking new sequencer, which I do love, and all these things together is just so great to see, because we are frankly in a situation now where not that much is open. And let's quickly talk about these things that are open. Now, I think the first thing that comes to mind is the transfer track. Now, people have been wanting for switch tracks, and I do want to quickly give you a bit of an idea what that means, where's the difference, because many people do mistake those two for each other. So a switch track is essentially, well, kind of a transfer track could be a switch track, but more about in a second. The switch track does the following: it switches out a track piece to another. So let's say you've got a coaster that goes into a launch, and then it goes to a top part of the coaster, but it doesn't quite make the top, and it goes backwards all the way. In the time where the coaster goes up that hill before it came back, in the launch section, the track can be exchanged, so that when a train goes backwards, you can basically propel it into a different part of the track that it previously hasn't been into. Well, first of all, to not cause any, safety hazards or something, but then also to create a more interesting coaster layout. And if you've been following the coaster inventions and innovations of the last couple of years, basically any new coaster has had a certain special switch track element in it. So that's a vital part of coaster nerdism. Is that even a word? Nerdism? Anyways, and it's in the game. Transfer tracks, however, are a lot more relevant to managing your actual coaster, and that goes down into switching out a train, or actually putting in a train while maintaining or actually already running the coaster. So that means usually you have like 2 trains operating on your coaster, but then if the peak time of the day is reached and more people are queuing up, you know, the queue fills in, you want to have a bigger work through of the coasters, like a bigger push through, you know. Let's say you have like 2 trains that make up for 2,000 guests an hour, so that equals to 1 train doing 1,000 people an hour. You put a third one on and you have approximately 3K. It doesn't exactly work like that, but just for the example, making that easier. But you don't want to close down the whole coaster to, you know, that essentially was what you were doing in Planet Coaster 1. You had to basically, you know, just get in, put another block section in, make another train, and then reopen the coaster. You even had to test it again to get the results in to be able to make it open. But what you want is to have a coaster that has the possibility to switch out trains however you like, depending on how much is going on in your park. So previously in Planet Coaster 1, that wasn't really doable from 2 sides. A, it wasn't in the game, but B, the management aspect of the game, how time and the whole situation in the park was handled, didn't really resemble a full day of maintenance in your park anyway, so it was always the same amount of people in your park. Now, we do not know if there's a big change now, but what we do know is that there's a huge change to the way how time is approached. We know the game is now hourly based. We even get an hourly weather forecast, which you wouldn't need to have if the hours or the daytime wouldn't play a role. So at this point we can safely say that they have completely reiterated and reworked how the management of the park has to work according to the time, like the daily time-based approach of the game. So that, for me personally, is something amazing to know, because that for me is also, from the technology, a transfer track isn't any different to a switch track. It does literally do the same. The only difference is that a transfer track transfers in a stalled train, while a switch track switches out the track during or within the layout. But like technology-wise, they're the same. So if you have a switch track working in the game, a transfer track shouldn't be an issue, to be honest. So that is why I'm very positively towards them. And they also said that they will have more surprises on the way. That leaves me with what is still open, because we've got so many things. I have my personal list I had at the beginning, and if I do find it, I will put that on screen, because a lot of these things have been checkmarked. And also, there are a few surprises already in that I have not expected, but they are more than welcome. For example, the scenery brush, that we do have a scenery brush now, is amazing, and it will add a lot of the quality of life updates to them, which we already had a lot with the, let's say, path brush. You know, you can now easily change the appearance of a pathing by just brushing over. You know, so let's say you have like a concrete path, but then you want to have like something else, like a, I don't know, a spooky tile path or whatever in green. You just, you know, make sure that your brush is set to that spooky green tile path, and then just brush over all the pathing, and your whole area is changed in one go. Whereas in the old game, that was a lot of tedious work to reach that, and let alone you couldn't even change the pathing in its appearance. So we were all building a lot of stuff, you know, on top of it with a lot of pieces. So that is great, and we don't even need to talk about all the individualization stuff we have, like custom coaster trains, custom flat rides, custom this, custom that. A lot of these things have. So the last thing for me personally, that's my very personal thing, is the pitch black interiors. And this is where, you know, this video comes back to the beginning of the video where I showed you that coaster footage, which I'm going to bring up the screen again now. Because this new lighting, is it new or is it just the actual lighting of this engine right now? Who knows? But it gives me so much hope, because you can see that one coaster element or the coaster train station. This is looking so different from what we've seen so far from the game. I've checked that, and also there were some threads on Twitter going on around this already. It looks fantastic compared to other Planet games. The way how the shade inside of this build or within this build is differing even between a slight shade and very dark one is super nice. And so I'm really hoping that my feeling I had at Gamescom will actually be true, that they have listened to us yet again and brought in a way to make pitch black interiors, at least something that works for dark rides. Which then, if that's the case, I think we are onto a very smooth launch of Planet Coaster 2, let alone if the performance is okay, which I assume the Planet Coaster 2 version at Gamescom was already pretty playable, really nice, and Even yes, it was a good system. Apparently, you want to showcase your game on a good system, but there was any stutter or anything, and I've seen people going nuts with like 10k people in the park while they were playing this, and there was no stutter, not at all. And you know that even on the beefiest system, a 10k park, no matter how little was in there, was already causing some issues already in the first game. So all over, I'm entirely positive. I remain skeptical about a few things, but they actually become less and less with every update we see. And I'm open to seeing more surprises, not gonna lie. So whatever I said in that last video I made about 3 things left to make it perfect, we are already back at only 1 thing, because we have the switch tracks confirmed, and we also have that one surprise with the scenery brush, at least in my opinion. So that does only leave out the switch tracks, the pitch black interiors, and also maybe one more surprise, which I assume we will see, and then we are on to something big here, guys. Now, what I want to know is, what do you guys think? After Gamescom, after all the reveals, what do you think? What's the single most thing you are still missing from the game? And please do me one favor. I've really read all of your comments on the last videos, and try to be a little bit aware of features that make or break the game for you. I've seen so many great ideas that I would love to see, but they wouldn't make or break a game, you know? At the end of the day, I don't care if there is like a movable light beam that I can control myself. That is a great idea, but that's not a make or break element of the game. I know that switch tracks have been a make or break thing for people. Pitch black interiors are. I know that some people say parades, which is a fair guess, you know? But try to keep it to those make or break things, because I really want to know what really would stop people from not getting the game. And once and for all, let's stop the discussion about if it's a 1.5 Planet Coaster 1.5 or not. At least this very discussion has to be put to rest now, because there is no way this can't be seen as a second game. They are well into the 30 coaster, 35, even 40 coaster types maybe. With all the customization, you have all these lists on Reddit where you can see how many. They've done so many improvements over the overall system. Actually, you can see the coaster is so much smoother anyways. It doesn't even matter if the builder is new or not, but it looks already so much smoother. So yeah, this is a very positive video on intention, and I definitely hope that this continues this way. Frontier, the only thing I might say, and is a little bit of a criticism, is like the way how they're communicating this stuff. It's a bit weird this time around, you know, finding things here and there and not having a central point to look at and say, yeah, well, every Wednesday we get a new screenshot or whatnot. That makes life harder for me a little, but that's just me personally being a creator, I guess. So, well, let's see what's in there for us, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this little overview video of my personal opinion at this point, where we are at and why I think this is going to be a smooth operation. Planet Coaster 2 is going to be great, and I hope you guys see it as I see it. So yeah, I talk to you in the next one. Have a good one, and goodbye.